Obviously the June 8th date was set up so that everybody could start at the same time, be on the same level playing field in terms of starting activities. The mayor of New Orleans said they weren't ready to go to phase 2. Just was wondering the impact maybe on those New Orleans schools, and also was there maybe any kind of thought or discussion about, like, let's say if the mayor would say, like, we're ready to go next week, about maybe backing the date up from the 8th to the next week so that everybody starts at the same time?
That's a good question. We did have that conversation with the committee today. I led that discussion once we decided, and a vote was taken for the June 8th being that date to start summer. The consensus is we're not changing everything for one particular region in the state. New Orleans was under a different kind of order earlier than anybody else in the state because of the pandemic. Doesn't make it right, it doesn't make it wrong, but I'm working try to work for the majority. The mayor made the choice that she made. I trust her decisions. I trust their leadership in that regard. The rest of the state has moved into phase 2, which is static groups of 25 by recommendation. And I'm hoping that they can catch up, if you will, after a week. I haven't read anything. Maybe for the record, do you know, did she say, is it for another 14 days or 15 days, or did she give it a deadline?
She just said they weren't ready. I saw somewhere where her health advisor, I think, had said she thought she'd be more comfortable in 2 or 3 weeks, but they didn't give any specific date that I know of.
And I haven't read anything. I'm going to flip the switch. I'm going to flip the script on you and Ken and whoever's with us with WGNO. There was rumor got back to me, and we're a closed group right here. Was there something that stated that there would be no contact sports allowed in Orleans Parish until there was a vaccination present? Did you hear anything about that?
I haven't heard.
Not specific. It's been talked about, but that's not been stated publicly.
Okay, because that opens up another whole conversation as we move forward, specifically with your question on how we move forward. But to answer your question, there's going to be no accommodations. June 8th is the date. Everybody's going to open up. If Orleans Parish can, they can. If they can't, they can't. But know that what we have submitted to all of you and others is recommendations. Those are recommendations from the Sports Medicine Advisory Committee of the National Federation, which encompasses over 300 doctors and athletic trainers nationwide, as well as our Sports Medicine Advisory Committee, who's chaired by Dr. Greg Stewart of Tulane University. So what we're giving you is recommendations. They're not mandates. If I had a question today, football coaches are having indigestion that the athletes have to wear masks in the weight room with the static group of 25. Then don't wear masks if you don't want to. I mean, that's a decision you have to make within your own school parish, district, and if you wear them, you wear them. If you don't, you don't. Temperature checks. All the stuff we have recommended are recommendations by medical personnel. As you mentioned a minute ago, the mayor is using a medical advisor. These are all medical people that have done this. I've empowered our Coaches Association and others here to get a feel. We've had a conference call with Dr. Stewart and coaches from different sports on what it looks like and what we could do. But that document is 99% living and breathing with what Federation recommendations were, as well as what came from our Sports Medicine Advisory Committee, which encompasses docs and NATA certified trainers as well. So probably more than you wanted to give for that answer, but it was one that we're going to continue on, and I'm hoping that they can come out from underneath that order sooner than later. But it's early right now. Again, I've stated let's not do anything in May and June that affects July and August. Well, apparently we did okay in May, but I also know that we're anticipating potentially we'll see what the residual effect of Memorial Day weekend may or may not have across our state. And let's get past that. And then guess what we got coming? 4th of July. Let's get past that. And hopefully we get into phase 3, which gives us more people can meet together and then decide what we're going to do as we move forward.
Now, June 8th, the New Orleans schools can start, but they would just have to go by phase 1 guidelines as opposed to phase 2?
Good question. And yes, they would be in phase 1. But now with phase 1 and us pulling back and letting summer rules start, the coach to player ratio is 1-to-4 in football. I believe that's 1-to-4. Now it's 10. You can have 10 people. 2 coaches, 8 athletes. So you all are in that position where now the static group is 25. But New Orleans is still would be in groups of 10, which is the order from your mayor. So if they're someplace outside of the school, the school's still locked down, they're outside the school in a park, whatever they're doing, that group now can't exceed 10 in your situation in the parish. So you're still in phase 1 of what our document says, yes.
I spoke to some coaches at the time the decision was made to go to June 8th, and the consensus was that they thought it was a good idea. It gave extra time to learn about, the sanitation methods and all that kind of stuff. That they felt that there was going to be more stuff that was going to come across about how they could do to sanitize and that kind of stuff. Since that time, what kind of stuff maybe has come up? What are the kind of things maybe that they'll probably be doing in terms of dealing with that?
Haven't heard one negative comment that Mr. Bonine, we're not ready. Thank you for doing that. We've got more thank yous for doing that, to giving us all an opportunity, and we're going to let the hounds out all together, if you will, which is what we're planning on the 8th. But it's, I think for the most part, the temperature checks, the sanitization, if they're inside a building, outside a building. Dr. Welch has made that very clear for us with working with the Resilient Louisiana plan as well, and that part of reopening schools, because we're still dealing with summer school in some specific parishes, transportation, and I think the bigger issue, us being an education-based association, what's going to be the call for when schools open, and with the new state school superintendent in place now, what's Dr. Brumley's approach going to be with the state board on the consistency? Is there consistency? Is it going to be left up to the 64 parishes and have the opening dates? Who's prepared? Who's not prepared? All dialogue and conversations that have to happen between now and obviously we get into July, and hopefully we get through these phases and we can open up schools. But the conversations that I've heard have been more about platooning, not opening up with full capacity. Transportation is going to be a huge bugaboo when it comes to trying to get schools. You're talking K through 12 now. Those little people, the elementary schools and then the middle schools and the high schools, and some of those routes you share all of those age groups to get them to campuses. So glad I'm not a school district personnel transportation director or assistant superintendent assigned to oversee transportation, because that's really going to be a bugaboo, I think, for a lot of the parishes. Specifically, if you're going to have to check temperatures when they get on. That 60-seat Bluebird or Thomas bus now is basically going to have 15, 20 people on it staggered. How many buses you're going to have to run and all that kind of stuff. So there's a lot of issues that have to happen before we start taking on sports.
Eddie, what's the latest that you want to say publicly about the investigating of the schools that may have violated things? Where are we at with that right now, and what would you say to that at this particular point in time?
Good question, Ken. And the bottom line is today I was given authority because we're in uncharted waters in regards to taking actions for something we set out and extended the school year. Because when we moved the June 8th start for summer, we basically extended the school year of what you can do out of season. So that was the one, and I keep using the 1 to 4, but the coach ratio was the issue. When we received notification that a specific school or schools were not adhering to the 1 to 4. There was a group of athletes and coaches from specific schools that were out in parks, cities, not on their campuses. I would request video or pictures. Before I'm going to send anybody out to look, I want to see myself what's going on. If you provide me that, then I'll send somebody. That said, of the 17 schools we have now that were alleged, I have video on 4. Of the video, we're still making a determination, was there a coach there or not? Can we identify if there was a coach there or not? Was it student generated? If it was generated,
Your audio's going bad again.
Okay. All right, hold on.
It's better now.
I'm using a hotspot, and anytime somebody texts me or calls me and I have a do not disturb on, it takes me away. So take me back. What part didn't you hear?
Just right before that, we were talking about 17 schools alleged, 4 on video, and you said
right.
And that's when you cut out.
We had 17 reports that people were doing stuff they weren't supposed to do. Our response was, thank you. Let us know when you have a video and if you have pictures of and this time data, so we know. And it's our job at that point to send an investigator out. We sent an investigator out to 7 sites. Okay, when we did that, we investigated. We recently was in the Lafayette area. There was no violations that was determined. The Orleans area is where we had 4, actually 3 in the Orleans area and 1 outside of the Orleans area, where we had video evidence. Now what we're sorting out is, was there a coach there, or was it just kids? Was it a public school because the campuses are supposed to be closed? Did they jump a fence to get into where they were? Were they private schools where the campuses weren't closed? There was kids in the weight room. Was it 1 kid, 4 coaches, which was allowable, but was that campus open? And was there more kids in there than just the one of the coach? We're still sorting our way through that. So what I got direction, Ken, back to your question, what I got direction and approval today is that if we have solid evidence that we can make a determination that yes, it was coach generated, whether he or she was there or not, and there was in violation of the ratio of 1 to 4, that I was given authorization that I can take action on those schools by fines or sanctions, and also take actions on the coach.
And where are you in that regard? I mean, have you made some determinations in terms of somebody who maybe indeed had a violation?
Staff is working on that as I speak, because I have this. I wanted to coordinate this 1 o'clock with y'all to let you know, get you up to date where you were, instead of doing 6 or 7 different ones. I wanted to get one message to all of you, so you can hit the keyboard and do what you need to do at your earliest convenience and make it fair for everybody. So I will know something within the next 24 to 48 hours. Know that the LHSAA is now in our summer hours, so we're a Monday through Thursday. So whatever we're going to get, we need to get right now. However, in the agenda today, we also had new member schools, some new memberships that are normally heard in June. But before we approve those, we do site visits, and we haven't had a chance to do all the site visits because of COVID. So we're still pending approval for that. But we are having a June 24th meeting in Baton Rouge, and we are going to attempt to do that in person. That will be potentially a closed public meeting, only because if you've been in our building, we're going to extend that rectangle for the board almost all the way to the entrance door. We're going to social distance. We're going to do what we need to do. And I know the static group is 25, but we are a small business. That room holds 500, so we're going to try to work to see how many people we can get in there. But then we'll discuss at that point notification, any other information we have on those schools, if they're going to be fined, if they're going to be sanctioned, and at that point we'll have a chance for appeal at that meeting.
And with regard to, there may be one school involved at this point that I'm aware of that's already admitted that they may have violated something, and they fixed it and moved on. And I'm sure we know who we're talking about in that regard. So with that in mind, is there a different price point there in terms of how you deal with somebody that immediately said, yeah, we did something, we'll fix it right away?
And I'm the guy that none of these schools are self-reported. So if you've ever seen our sanction form, it has listed these little boxes, self-reported, reported by someone other than the association, or reported by the association. These were all reported by the association. That is one factor I take into consideration. Somebody self-reports and says, hey, here's the deal, here's what we did. What good does it do to ask somebody to tell them this stuff if you're going to still nail them? Okay, so I do use discretion and common sense when it comes to sanctions. But I did send out a communication that lists all the potential. I have no intention at this point of throwing the book at anybody. But at the end of the day, when I say we're going to find somebody, or I say there's going to be take sanctions, I mean it. There are some to the chagrin. They're saying we never do anything. I don't know what book they've been following, but if you've seen what we did in the last year in regards to fines and sanctions, we're adhering to what we're supposed to do when we're enforcing our Constitution and bylaws, which is what I was charged to do. So if there's this one school, and yes, we are in agreement with that school, they have not been notified of the sanction or disclosure, but they will be. And then at that point, everybody, at least 3, if not 4, will have the abilities for appeal. And if I receive anything else from anyone else who's been alleged that it's concrete, I will send our investigator out to get their own evidence and see it themselves and move on. But I do know that there's schools, it's not just football. We've had baseball, softball, and there's a fairly large wrestling event that's going to take place in y'all's backyard. I say y'all meaning in the New Orleans area at a local school down there for wrestling, June 11th through the 14th. So we just have to wait and see. But know that in the summer rules, the LHSAA has very, very, very limited authorization, and it becomes the school's issue and or the school's responsibility to do what they want to do in regards to what we've provided for reopening, the guidelines, the recommendations, what they're allowed or not allowed
Yeah, you locked up there again.
comes summer activity.
Hold on, Eddie.
By
Hold on, disconnection's bad again. Hold on, you have to repeat that.
Can you hear me?
Yeah,
Hear me now? There's a call coming in.
yeah.
Robin Fambro says she can't get on the Zoom interview. We use a different system and apparently can't download the software.
Okay.
I can't make everybody happy, but that was
No.
why I went away there for a minute because there was a text coming.
Okay.
But okay now?
Yes.
Is there an answer to the last question you didn't hear? You want me to repeat or are we good?
I think we're good. One other quick question. Of the 17, that number, have they all been notified by you or by the LHSAA at all?
No, they have not, because I'm not going to wag that tail until I have some concrete evidence, because I don't want to panic and stretch in. And the only people that know of the remaining 15, 14, or 15 are the executive committee, which I notified today and told them what I'm telling you right now, that we're not chasing every anonymous. You may want to check this school. You may want to check that school. We did have an alumni turn in a school. Well, provide us pictures and video. You just not calling you a liar, but if you send me that, then we're going to go out and check it out ourselves. And then at that point, I'm not going to just react to any email or anonymous tip that I got that something's going on somewhere.
Mr. Bonine, a few weeks ago, you sent out in one of those memos, please don't put me or the association in a position of having to do this. Just get a general comment about, here it is, and it's put you in a position of having to deal with it.
Well, let me spin it, and I didn't use the word spin, but I'm going to spin it this way. We have over 370 plus football schools, and we're talking about 16. Do the quick cowboy math. I think that, and my head is not in the sand. My head is not in the sand that there's not others that may be out there doing it and found a way to not get caught. But I want to believe that for the kids' sake and for the coaches' health sake and others involved, that they said, you know what, this is 2 weeks or 3 weeks. Let's just wait and do it when we can do it. That's the way I look at it. There's a lot of schools out there, and I respect the coaches. I respect Eric Held, who's my director of the Coaches Association, and all the communications that he's been having with them, all the Zoom, all the webinars he's been doing for the coaches, engaging them while they're out right now, to make sure that we're all on the same page. And I truly believe majority, if not the vast majority, was. But as an old principal, I knew we had a tardy policy, and it seemed like I was kept chasing the same 20 kids around every day between classes trying to get into class, okay? But the rest of the schools seem to get in class on time. Same kind of theory here, Guy. I mean, I hated to have the position, but that'll come up. If they want to appeal, that'll come up. They may just take the consequence, whatever that might be, and say, all right, my bad, got it. And then at that point, feel whether it was worth it or not. But at some point, they'll be disclosed publicly who they were, and then they can deal with that as they need to deal with it. Looks like Robin joined us. Robin, you there? Go ahead. She's not there. Go ahead. Any other questions? Ken, you have anything else?
No, I'm good.
I was done, yeah.
Good.
Well, I appreciate you two, as well as others in the area, and I mentioned y'all before. You're true reporters. I appreciate that. You get facts before you go off on a tangent, and you always know how to get a hold of me, and I do the best I can to get back to you as soon as I can. I tell you what I can tell you. I tell you what I can tell you without having to eat you, and we kind of move on, and you've all been good about that. So I want to thank you for keeping that and working with us, because I know we're all in the same business and trying to do the best we can for our student athletes across the state, our coaches, and we're in uncharted waters right now, and we're all trying to do this the best we can and keep communicating. If you tell me somebody's not doing what they're supposed to do, tell me. No one will ever know where it came from, but at the end of the day, we need to see with our own eyes and make sure we're clear for that, and then we'll take care of it. So stay in touch with me. Let me know what you need, what you don't need. And Ken, I look at you, I talk to you quite a bit, and I appreciate what you do and how you do it for high school sports. You all do a great job for us. We appreciate your coverage, and on behalf of my staff and our committee, thank you. I really do appreciate you.
Welcome. Same to you.
Robin, you there?